Hey guys, this is Bill from Linden, Tennessee with another Jeep update. So, this was a very exciting week. I got quite a lot done. Um, I hope that I can first of all, remember everything that I did do, and then also remember to talk about everything that I did do. One of the first things that I did do was I took the wraps off of this plexiglass. I was waiting on some stainless steel fasteners, so I took the wrapper off of the plexiglass and installed that, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. Uh, I show up to a show that I've got this little sign that says electric because when I was taking my Ranger to car shows, nobody knew what in the world was going on. They just thought it was some beat up old Ranger. So I had to have a little sign, a big like an arrow sign that says electric on it. I'm gonna take that with me to shows also because if you just kind of glance at this, it looks like a Jeep because it is a Jeep. But if you just glanced at it, you wouldn't know there's anything special with it. So I'm gonna have a little sign that says electric. And now, whenever somebody walks up, this is what they'll be greeted with. And yeah, I think that turned out really, really nice. So that's cool. And the other thing, big thing, and I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase, is this. I'm gonna reach up here and turn this on, and then I'm gonna turn that on some more. And the noise you hear right now, I'll talk about that here in a minute. So, is this right here. Let's see if I can get me a good view. And there we go. It's alive. It runs. I got the motor spinning. Now, somebody tell me, because I don't know. Is that too noisy? I just don't know. That seems awful dang noisy to me, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just overreacting. I do that. Somebody does know, please leave a message in the comments. This is just a large drive unit with the 4.5-to-1 gear reduction gear set. I think Quaife does that, and it's also got the Quaife torque biasing center differential. So if that's too noisy, it doesn't seem to be terribly difficult to spin. Like I can turn the stub axles by hand fairly easily. I don't know. Let me know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's okay. I hope it's okay. Something cool that happens during regen is the brake lights come on. I mean they should, but they do. So that's pretty awesome. Something that's not so cool is that little. So this is my forward reverse switch, and this is my. Well, this will be my. It's going to be my eco. It's going to be my regen switch. So in one position, I have full regen. So I shouldn't ever need to use the service brakes. So when I come to a stop, the regen stops you, and you can adjust that, and it could go from. In this particular case, it can go from anything which you probably describe as quite violent to mild. So I'm going to have it somewhere in the middle. But if it's snowing outside, or if it's particularly rainy or whatever, if the road conditions warrant it, I want to be able to reach down and turn that regen off, because I don't want to have electronic sort of braking when it's really slippery. I want to be able to use my own brakes. Now, I may find out that regen braking is more effective in slippery conditions. I don't know, but until I find that out for sure, I want to have the option. Yeah, so that's very, very exciting. That's a huge, huge deal. Like I've talked about milestones before in electric vehicle builds. I guess the first one is getting the vehicle. The second one is installing the motor, getting the motor mounts installed and having the motor sitting there on its own. And I think the next one is actually spinning the motor, getting the motor to turn over. So that's a pretty big deal, and it's very exciting. My heart was in my throat yesterday when I had this the motor was in and it had the connectors and everything, and all I had to do was turn the key and see what happens. I was terrified. I should have shot a video, but I think I was shaking too much. It wouldn't have made good video. So yeah, that's what I did. I turned the key, and for this particular instance, I wanted to make this as much like a car as possible. I've seen some EVs where you have to like, you push a button for the pre-charge and then you have to hold one button and push another one to get it to engage. And you know, it's kind of weird. It's not weird. It just is what it is. But in my case, you've got your key, your standard key, and then you turn it on. That's the first click. And then you rotate it forward, which would normally be the starter. Well, that energizes the drive unit. So that makes the drive unit go. So you have it in regular run, and then you start it, and that makes the main contactor contact and sends power to the motor, and that's it. And then you're just off to the races. I especially like this Stealth EV drive unit, Zero EV drive unit software, that you don't have to push the brake in to go. Any factory EV, you have to push the brake to go. I guess that's a safety thing. You know, more power to them, be safe, but I don't like that. So this doesn't have that, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, another cool thing is you don't have to put it in neutral before you can put it in drive. You can just, you know, I drive it and stop, turn it off, get out, get back in, turn it back on, and then just go. I don't have to reach down and put it in reverse or put it in neutral and then put it in drive again. So that's pretty cool too. It definitely, any factory EV would make you do that. And even my little electric lawnmower, it has to cycle through neutral and then put it in the direction you want to go. And I mean, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal, but it is annoying. And it sort of detracts from the experience of driving, you know, because in the same way that I wanted to have my key just start it, because that's what everybody knows and that's what we're all used to, I wanted to do the same thing. I want to have the same thing when it's actually time to go. But in this case, I guess this is simpler than in a normal car. With a normal car, you have to take it out of park and put it into drive, or push the clutch and put it in first. This is actually easier than that. You just turn it on and hit the gas. So, yeah, bonus. That's cool. And anyway, what else did I do? Oh yeah, the power steering. I got the power steering to work. So I should have at least shot a picture of it or shot a video of it. There's this little doohickey I got on Amazon, and it's a programmable timer, and it fills the bill perfectly of what I was wanting for my power steering system. What I needed was a relay that whenever I command the relay to turn on, it comes on for a period of time. And then I've got a little micro switch on my steering column that it's actually, you know, exactly like this. So it's a little micro switch on the steering column, and the steering column has flat spots on the side of it. So whenever the steering is straight ahead, the micro switch is pushed back and it closes a set of contacts. When that happens, 12 volts comes, or actually ground, goes through those contacts and to that little programmable relay I was talking about. The programmable relay then energizes itself and stays on. I've got it programmed for about 8 seconds. So it'll stay on for 8 seconds. I'll have power steering for 8 seconds. And if nothing else happens, if I don't steer the wheel or anything, it'll just turn off. So that's what I want. So if I come up to a traffic light or I'm in a traffic jam or something like that, I don't want the power steering pump to just sit there and run indefinitely. I want it to turn off after a period of time. And that's what it'll do. It'll do that after 8 seconds. If I'm just driving along slow, like in a parking lot, or if I'm wheeling, then I want the power steering pump to be on all the time. So 8 seconds wouldn't do it. So what this little programmable timer does is, if the trip signal is tripped while the relay is energized, it will reset that time. So as long as I'm turning the wheel, then the relay will continue to be energized. That energized relay then turns on the power steering pump relay. That's, you know, it's one of I repurposed one of the factory relays, and that's what turns on the power steering pump. Another part to all this is the speed switch. I'm just getting my light ready because we're going to go over there. So there's a speed sensor, and I've showed that to you before. It's a little inductive pickup that's on the stub axle of the drive unit. And what that does is it at a certain RPM, which I hope is roughly 8 or 10 miles an hour, it will trigger this top box. So the fuse box there on the left, sorry. And then to the right of that is just that black box there. That is the RPM module. So it senses that RPM, inductive RPM sensor. And whenever the vehicle's going 10 miles an hour, that little box will open a circuit. 12 volts comes through that little box and goes down to that relay. The yellow wire there off of that little sort of whitish box, that little whitish is the programmable timer. So that yellow wire is the output. So that output is ground, and the power coming through the RPM module is power. So as long as that RPM module thinks we're going less than 10 miles an hour, it will send power to that relay. The programmable timer will send ground to that relay. When that relay is closed, the circuit is completed to turn on the power steering pump. If we go to more than 10 miles an hour, that RPM sensor, the RPM switch will open. It will open, so 12 volts will no longer be present at that relay. So no matter what the programmable timer thinks, it will send a ground to the relay, but there won't be any power available to close the contacts of the relay to complete the circuit for the power steering. So there will be no power steering above 10 miles an hour, which is fine, because above 10 miles an hour, you don't need power steering because you're moving along. And that's what I wanted. And fortunately, I found that programmable timer, and it was only like $14 or something on Amazon. There's two versions of it. There's a 5 amp and a 10 amp. I got the 5 amp just mostly because it's small. I don't need a whole lot of amperage. All I'm doing is controlling a little relay. So a 10 amp would be cool if you wanted. I recommend you go check it out. You just go into Amazon and search for programmable timer. I think that's what it is, and it's just it's a little white looking little box that I showed you. It thing has so many modes. It's got like 33 different modes. You can set it up as a flasher. You can set it up to come on. You can 33 different ways. I can't even come up with 30. How they sat down and came up with 33 ways to program a relay is beyond me, but it does it, and it's pretty fantastic. I'm going to use one of the 33, and I'm never going to touch it again. So I programmed it, and that's it. So anyway, and the other kind of cool thing is I got my heater working. So the early Tesla Model 3s, they had electric heating elements. The most recent Model 3s and Model Ys, and I think pretty much from now on, any EV is going to have some sort of a heat pump. Heat pumps are much, much more efficient than electric heating elements. Anytime using electricity to make heat is just purely wasteful. I mean, it's not wasteful in the sense that you want it to be hot, but it's just not a good way to use electricity. Gasoline is a way better way to make electricity, as a way more effective way of making heat. But anyway, so the early Model 3s had electric heating elements, and that is what you see there before you with all the little red wires coming out of it. And from the factory, the heating had 6 heating elements. 6 heating elements did not fit in my HVAC box, so I took my hacksaw and chopped off one of those elements. So now I've got 5 modules, 5 heating elements from a Tesla Model 3, and they're all just wired in parallel, and they go to a contactor that's in my contactor box. And so on a Jeep Wrangler, it's kind of a cool feature that the fan itself does not you can't turn the fan off. The only thing you do is you turn this selector off. When that selector is all the way over, then the fan is off. When the selector is moved into any other position, the fan comes on low or up to high, whatever. And then if I move this switch all the way over, it's got a little micro switch on the blend door that completes the circuit for that contactor that's in the contactor box, and it gives power to those elements. The first time I tried this, it had a 10 amp fuse, and it blew it in about 2.6 microseconds. 10 amps is not enough. So I got me a 30 amp fuse and disconnected all but one of the elements turned it on and saw what the power was. And then now I've got 3 of them hooked up. I've got 3 of 5 heating elements hooked up. And I'm just going to keep it that way. Once we get into the winter, it gets really cold. If 3 elements isn't enough heat, if that's not doing the job, then I can always reach down there and plug in another one. And if I need to, I can plug all 5 of them in. So let's see how that looks up here on the display. I'll turn the key on. My little revved display comes up. That's another thing that's kind of fun. This works now. I got 218 amps, 95%, and the battery's at 393 volts. So that's pretty cool. I've got a motor fault because I don't have the correct files loaded into the revved to take the information from the motor. So I don't have a controller temperature or motor temperature and RPM yet. But as soon as I get the correct files for that, I can get that programmed and then it'll be good. So I've got an amp discharge meter and an amp charge meter. And so, yeah, so right now I've got the fan. I got this just over in defrost, and then so the fan is on low speed, and if I move that temperature selector all the way over to the right, all the way to heat, watch what happens. There you go. So that completes that closes the contactor and the relay box, and it's certainly currently sending out 10 amps into my heating elements. Now man, 10 amps at 392 volts, that's 3.9 kilowatts. That's a lot of heat, man. Like your normal desktop heating unit is going, like 1500 watts. The heater that I had in my Ranger was 1500 watts. That's 3,000. That's almost 4,000 watts. This could potentially put out almost 6,000 watts worth of heat. That's a tremendous amount of heat, man. So that's going to be fantastic in the winter. And the thing about my Ranger was the heater was just mounted between the seats, and it had like a little computer fan that sort of blew through it and sort of heated up the cabin. But you could never make the heat come to just your feet or on your face or the defrost or anything like that. It was just, from behind on your right elbow if you're driving, and would kind of make it up to the window, But it worked fine. It worked really good in the winter. I could go out there in the morning and turn the heat on, and a couple minutes later come out and my window would be completely defrosted. So that worked really good. But this will be even better because I can blow the air specifically on the window, so it'll be a lot more effective. And that's pretty awesome. The other awesome thing I did is the charger works. I think I had that working last video. I don't know, but if I didn't, there you go. The charger works, and that's cool. And it stops charging when it's supposed to stop charging. Yeah, of course I did. I showed you because I had the video of the cells. Yeah, it turns out that having all of them go red at the same time, having every single cell balance at the same time is okay. And that's just indicative that your pack is really, really, really balanced. And in the case of this pack, the highest and the lowest cells, the difference in voltage is 5 thousandths of a volt, 0.005 of a volt. That's ridiculous. I mean, the fact that it even measures it that closely or measures it that accurately is obscene, but the fact that each cell is within that is just really cool. So yeah, the one thing it doesn't do, and I don't know if you can make it do, if you do know, let me know, is when the charge is complete, it turns the contactor off. It turns the discharge enable contactor off. So then the water pump and all that stuff is stopped working, but the BMS is still on, and the J1772, the EVSE hanging on the wall, is still on. I'd like for that to turn off when the charge is over if I can, but if I can't, that's all right. I don't really care, but it'd just be kind of nice if it did. So that's neat. And another cool thing that I added is this button right here. If there is ever, while we're driving along, if there is some sort of a fault, like I don't know, a high cell voltage recording or something like that, all those messages show up on the revved display. I can just reach down and just push that little button, and it'll clear the faults and get rid of it from the display. And if I reach down there and push the button and it clears the fault, but then it comes back again, now I know when I get home I need to kind of investigate that and see what's going on. Previously, you had to connect the computer and talk to the CAN bus for this whole system, and then tell it to clear the faults that way, and that was a real pain in the butt. So now I've got a little button to do that. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so big week, lots of stuff going on. as far as stuff to do, I've still got these wires. This is the wire. This will go to the little temperature sensor. It's just an on-off switch at 40 degrees Celsius. When the water temperature coming from the drive unit hits 40 degrees Celsius, it'll go through this, and that'll complete the circuit for the fan on the radiator for the drive unit system. These two, one of these is power. This one's power, and this one is the signal. That'll go to the inductive pickup on the drive unit on the little stub axle. So that's that. And on the other side, there's two more wires, and they're just for the coolant pumps. So the drive unit coolant pump and the battery coolant pump. So now all I've got to do is finish plumbing the coolant lines for all the battery boxes. At the moment, I've got all the hard lines from the rear two battery boxes through the transmission tunnel is where I've got them run, and they terminate just underneath the front battery box. Just finish that, make a bracket for the water pump, and finish the run to the radiators and to the coolant catch tank. And then I got to do the same for the drive unit and charger. They're on their own loop, so I have to finish those. So basically 5 wires and 2 coolant systems, and get a software update and make this drive unit run reliably. And then I can put some drive shafts on there and see what happens, see what breaks first. So coming along nicely. Oh, something else I did too. Quick little thing. Oh, this is turning into a really long video. Sorry about that. So this, I sort of rewired the 12-volt power system a little bit. It used to be that this wire here, this is straight from the battery, used to go over to that little contactor block right there. So I removed it from that and put it to this block. The reason I did that is because at some point I am going to have a winch on here, and having that battery post right there directly from the battery will make winch wiring much, much easier. So that's what that's for. And then also in doing so, I freed up I got rid of 1 or 2 connectors from that post, because I'm also going to have a stereo in this beast. So that's where I'm going to pull power from for the amplifiers, or I may pull it from over there on the other side of that fuse. I don't know yet. Either way, yeah, so that's what's going to happen there. Yeah, so that's it, man. We're getting right along. I'm so excited. I can hardly stand it. I was so excited when I got yesterday when I got the drive unit going. That was so cool. Yeah, so all right, guys, thanks for sticking with me. 22 minutes. This is a world record for videos for me anyway. Thanks for watching. Keep on watching. I enjoy all your comments, good and the bad and ugly. Yeah, so I will see you next time. Bye.